Howdy there, y'all. This is Space Robot 1 back again with a video. Before I begin this video on the Byzantine Emperor Phocas, I'd like to say, to give a little apology for it being like a year since my last upload, especially when that video did better than all my other videos by far. There's just a lot of stuff in real life that got in the way of my uploading, and I'm sorry, honestly. I'll try to upload more consistently in the future, and I am, again, real sorry for leaving y'all right after, like, my biggest video by far happened. So, just a quick sorry for that. Anyway, getting into the video. Today we're going to be covering the Byzantine Emperor Phocas, who is widely regarded as one of the worst emperors Byzantium ever had. This is a picture from the British Museum that's believed to be of him. So, yeah, we're covering him today because he's so hated, and we're going to be talking about sort of why he's the most hated Byzantine emperor and if that reputation is really warranted. So before we get into the discussion of Phocas and what he did or didn't do to become so hated, we have to talk about the context in which he lived and ruled. So Phocas came to power in late 602 AD, and what's important to understand about that date is it's after Justinian's conquest. So Justinian, of course, Byzantine emperor, took Italy from the Germanic tribes that had inhabited it since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. He took also some land in Spain and Portugal and Morocco, well, what is now Spain and Portugal and Morocco that you can see over here, and North Africa, Sardinia, Corsica, the Balearic Islands, all stuff that the Vandals had been occupying. The point is, and this will be important to understanding Phocas, the Byzantine Empire wasn't just in the eastern half of the Roman Empire. It had significant possessions in Italy. Of course, this map is showing the Byzantine Empire in 555 AD. By 602, of course, some of the Western possessions had been lost, but there were still significant Italian holdings, including the city of Rome itself. And, of course, Egypt, this was pre-Arabic invasion, so that still would be part of the Byzantine Empire. And, yeah, so you have to kind of understand what the Byzantine Empire was looking like to understand the effect Phocas had on it. So, yeah. So since the sort of context of Phocas has been set up, we can now get into actually who Phocas was and why everyone hates him, pretty much. So, to begin, I didn't actually know very much about Phocas when I decided to make this video. Normally, when I start making a video, it's a topic I already researched into just for fun or like just happen to know a lot about. But I made this video because I see people always putting him at the bottom of tier lists or talking about how bad of an emperor he was, but I didn't really know why. So the interpretation is partially, at least, my own. I mean, I'm sure these points have been made before, and some of them I will credit to the folks who made them. But the information mostly does come from the Wikipedia article on Phocas, which is, of course, itself an amalgamation of a bunch of great sources. Just feel like I have to say that if I get something wrong in this video, I'm sorry. It's not going to be on the same level of confidence I normally go into my videos with. This is just a topic I find really interesting. So Phocas, he was a not really that famous guy. He wasn't connected to like a great house before his usurpation of the throne. He was just a military officer. There were enough soldiers sort of angry with the reigning emperor Maurice, who came before him. Much more famous guy than Phocas himself, at least from what I've seen. And he overthrew the government and did the classic, Roman move of proclaiming yourself the emperor with the military support, tale as old as time. Well, as old as Augustus. Well, you get the point. Pretty much as old as the Roman Empire. So, after that, what exactly did he do? Well, if I'm honest with you, this guy right here, Emperor Phocas, he didn't do very much. His two big, I guess you can call them policies, were promoting his own relatives to positions of power in Constantinople, which isn't really much of a policy decision. It's just kind of, nepotism, no real ideology behind that. That, of course, didn't go over well with, the military officials and the nobles of the realm. And then his other major move for our purposes today, he also is pretty incompetent defending the border, but with the reputation that this guy has, it almost goes without saying. But yeah, he was incompetent defending the Balkan border, and he was very friendly with the papacy in Rome. He has a column at Rome, it's still standing, and in general he referred to Rome as the principal church, essentially, of the empire, and favored it above the other dioceses. Other than that, he was then later in his short reign overthrown by Heraclius the Elder, who would then place his son Emperor Heraclius on the throne, who would go on to found the Heraclian dynasty and be overall a pretty famous and much more positively viewed emperor than our old friend Phocas here. Well, not really friend, because this is a video about why nobody likes him, so he doesn't have many friends, but yeah, he much more popular emperor who would end up founding a dynasty, Heraclius, who came after him. Yeah, he didn't do much in his reign. It was only a few years long, so how much could he really do? But yeah, he didn't do very much other than some nepotism and favoring the Roman Church, both of which didn't go over, and forgetting to defend the border, none of which went over particularly well. So I think from this information presented, it's pretty obvious why he was hated at the time. But I think, why Emperor Phocas here is so hated today is a very different question. There were a lot of very incompetent Byzantine emperors, Roman emperors, rulers of any state, pretty much. But especially, when you consider there were a bunch of horribly incompetent Byzantine emperors, you wonder why Phocas in particular is singled out. Sure, he didn't really defend the border, but in the Balkans, but he did pull those troops away, to fight a rebellion, which is somewhat understandable, and plenty of other emperors lost territory as well. So that doesn't really explain why he's singled out. So in my mind, I think there are two explanations. The article actually on Wikipedia suggests that given Phocas was succeeded by Heraclius in the Heraclian dynasty, they might have had a bias against him, which to me makes total sense. The best way to legitimize your dynasty and make it look like your usurpation was valid is paint the previous guy as a tyrant and a usurper. That's a perfectly logical explanation. But that wouldn't really, to me, explain why he's still hated today. We aren't getting all our sources from the Heraclian dynasty's state literature, are we? Am I funded by Heraclius? Tune into my next video and I will reveal if I'm being funded by the Heraclian dynasty. I wish I was being funded by anybody. I probably wouldn't be in the pocket of an emperor. Anyway, yeah, I think it has more to do, his continual hatred, with a longer bias against him by historians that I would assume has to do with his support of the Roman Church. He envisioned, and he viewed the Roman Church as a church superior over all other churches, the Pope as a universal bishop. Not in the sense that the other bishops weren't valid, but that he had a sort of supremacy over them, if that makes sense. Not that there's only one bishop or the whole world is one diocese, but that there is one bishop who holds a distinctly higher position than the others. And although the idea of the Pope being originally primus inter pares, first among equals, exists in Greek Orthodoxy, his support of Rome could be seen by Greek Orthodox historians as an affirmation of sort of more Catholic doctrines of papal supremacy, and thus later Orthodox authors might view him as one not of the Orthodox faith and thus dislike him. I think his support of the Roman Church could have led to a long-term bias against him, and the reason that the sort of anti-Phocas view from Heraclean literature survived later, and why it was perpetuated. I think that's, to me, what I think definitely could have happened and why he's so hated today. As to whether he deserves his reputation, I think yes and no. I think in the sources he was a pretty horrible emperor. Like, he was bad. This guy did not know how to rule an empire. But I wouldn't say he's as uniquely horrible. Like, there are other bad emperors. A lot of them between major dynasties for the Byzantines tend to be real big failures. They just usurp the throne and then get usurped immediately after. So I think Phocas is a really bad emperor, but I'm not sure if he's deserving of being like the bad emperor, if that makes sense. If anyone else has if any of my viewers out there have any good contributions to this debate about Phocas, any strong opinions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Just keep it all polite in that. And yeah, thank you all for watching this video. I hope you'll have me back on the internet. See ya.